On a map, it's a joke. 2 islands, 1 country, a splash of blue in between, but no bridge. Why? Let's find out on today's episode of Map Pack. This is New Zealand, the North Island where most of the people are, and the South Island where all the scenery is. And that watery gap, that's the Cook Strait. It's the channel that's supposed to stitch the nation's main highway and rail system into one seamless network. Supposed to. On paper, the solution is obvious. You build a bridge, or a tunnel. At its narrowest point, the strait is just over 13 miles wide. That's not an ocean, that's a commute. People drive further than that to get to work. The Öresund Bridge Tunnel connecting Denmark and Sweden is almost 10 miles long, and they built part of it as an artificial island. Japan's Seikan Tunnel is nearly 34 miles long, and it's earthquake-proof, which honestly, that's just showing off. Yet New Zealand, a modern, wealthy, engineering-capable country, keeps it old school. It still connects its 2 main islands with a boat. It's been over 100 years. They've built skyscrapers, dams, and entire movie sets for hobbits. But a bridge? Nope, that's the realm of fantasy. Too hard. But it leaves you wondering, why? Why does the main road trip from Auckland to Christchurch involve a 3-hour sea voyage? The reality is, that gap isn't just a gap. It's not just water. It's a concentrated parade of Mother Nature's absolute worst ideas, all happening at the same time in the same place. That little innocent-looking strait is a natural barrier so violent, so hostile, and so fundamentally broken that it's been gaslighting engineers for generations. Trying to build a bridge here isn't an engineering project. It's a declaration of war on the planet. And the planet? It's winning. First, let's talk about the air. You don't just get wind in Cook Strait, you get the roaring 40s. And that's not a wartime cosplay club. New Zealand, thanks to its excellent real estate decisions, sits right in the express lane of westerly winds that whip around the bottom half of the planet. Between 40 and 50 degrees south latitude, you don't live in weather, you live in a global wind tunnel. And Cook Strait, that's the funnel. It takes all that raw, untamed oceanic rage and squeezes it between the 2 islands. We're not talking about a stiff breeze, we're talking about frequent, screaming gales on a good day. Gusts hitting 56 miles an hour aren't special occasions, they're not storm warnings, they're just a regular Tuesday. Now, picture a multi-billion-dollar suspension bridge in that. Engineers have a polite term for what happens. Aeroelastic flutter. The simpler term? Mayday. A high, long bridge in that kind of wind isn't a bridge, it's a wannabe wing. The wind doesn't just push it, it convinces it to take off. Any design would need extreme, radical aerodynamics shaping just to survive. Massive dampers, flexible joints, and tunnels through the road deck to let the wind pass. Every single component would be in a state of constant, violent vibration. And this isn't a steady, predictable wind. The weather here shifts on a dime. It can go from pleasantly breezy to all ferries canceled, airborne garden furniture coming before you've crossed downtown Wellington. So, problem number 1. Building the world's most expensive wind chime in the middle of a hurricane alley. Let's say the engineers get lucky. Somehow, they design a bridge that's somehow heavy enough to not be blown away. Now, they have to deal with the water. And the water in Cook Strait is arguably worse than the air. It's pure, unadulterated liquid chaos. Here's the problem. The 2 ends of the strait are on completely different tidal schedules, an aquatic odd couple. The North Island side near Wellington is in sync with the Pacific Ocean's tides. The South Island side near Picton follows the rhythm of the Tasman Sea. It's like 2 roommates trying to use one kitchen on totally different sleep schedules. It's a disaster. This creates a massive, irreconcilable mismatch. Twice a day, a colossal volume of water gets squeezed through that narrow 13-mile gap as one side hits high tide and the other hits low. The result is a river, an 8-knot river that surges through the strait. A high-speed current that literally scours the seabed. It carves canyons, it creates massive whirlpools and eddies. It's a full-time hydraulic stress test on anything dumb enough to get in the way. So those giant billion-dollar bridge piers, they'd have to be sunk into a seabed that is actively being power washed by an angry current 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The base of the piers would be in a never-ending rapid, facing constant erosion, pressure, and fatigue. And you thought your job was tough. They would need to be monsters of engineering, armored and reinforced just to stay still. And that's just the current. I haven't even gotten to the waves. But before that, if you like these map dives, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Because I've been lost in Google Earth for so long, I think I'm starting to develop Stockholm Syndrome. Anyway, the wind, it's howling one way and the tide is racing the other. The sea state is what sailors politely call confused. That's the technical term, confused. It means the waves don't come in nice, orderly swells. They don't have a pattern. It's chaos theory with splash damage. Wind chop from the gales slams into tidal currents. Swells from the deep southern ocean hit the coastlines and rebound, crashing into other swells. The result? A sea of steep, sharp, pyramid-shaped waves coming from every direction at once. A mosh pit of angry water. A calm day can turn into a 20-foot-high liquid battlefield in minutes, and you're not winning this fight. So those bridge piers, they're not just in a fast river. They're in a high-speed, saltwater washing machine during an earthquake, and it's full of boulders. There's more, too. Of course there is. I've covered the air, I've covered the water, and now let's talk about the one thing you need to be stable: the ground. And it's at this point, engineers usually stop taking notes and start Googling career changes. The ground beneath Cook Strait is, to put it in simple geological terms, completely and utterly broken. The Earth's version of a total train wreck. When New Zealand was spawned, it's like the Earth shrugged and went, good enough. The whole country got dropped between tectonic plates, not on one, between them. The Pacific Plate rams into the Australian Plate right beneath it, and New Zealand's just there, caught in the argument. And Cook Strait, it's the epicenter of the collision. The area is riddled with multiple active faults: the Marlborough Fault System, the Alpine Fault. The gang's all there. It's a spiderweb of deep, angry cracks in the Earth's crust. Earthquakes here aren't a 1-in-100-year risk. They're more of a does tomorrow suit situation. High seismicity is the understatement of the century. In 1848, a quake was so violent it permanently uplifted parts of Wellington's harbor. In 2013, a magnitude 6.6 quake struck right in the middle of the strait. It caused millions in damage and reminded both islands that solid ground is really just an optimistic concept. But the real nightmare starts when you try to anchor a bridge to the bottom. Where do you drill the foundations? The seabed isn't a nice, flat, solid piece of granite. It's a complex, faulted seabed with variable rock quality. Geologist for good luck. That means some parts are solid rock, but right next to it, a patch of soft, wet, mushy sediment. The kind of sediment that, during an earthquake, does something called liquefaction. That's when solid ground shaken by a quake instantly turns into quicksand. It loses all structural integrity. It becomes soup. So building a bridge here means playing a game of geological roulette. You'd have to drill deep, spend a fortune, and hope the bedrock doesn't file for divorce halfway through construction. This is the point where every armchair engineer has the same bright idea. Okay, forget a bridge. Too windy, too wavy. Let's just build a tunnel. Sounds great, but now you get to deal with all the same problems in the dark. First up, the bored tunnel. It sounds simple. Point a giant TBM at the seabed and start chewing. But the moment you hit one of its countless fractures, high-pressure seawater blasts in and turns your project into a deep ocean fountain. And even if you somehow finish, the next quake will shove one side of the tunnel several feet sideways, turning it into the world's most expensive tomb. An immersed tube option isn't any easier. You'd first have to cut a stable trench in a tidal race that keeps erasing it as fast as you dig. Then you have to float building-sized concrete sections into place and sink them with millimeter precision while waves attack from all directions. It's underwater Lego in a maelstrom, laid onto a seabed that can liquefy whenever it feels like. Two bad choices, each with its own failure mode waiting to pounce. For over a century, people, sensible people, have stood at the edge of the water, looked across that turbulent, angry gap, and thought, yeah, that'll work. They dream of concrete and steel finally taming the Cook Strait, of a simple, easy drive from one island to the other, as if physics were just an inconvenience. And every single time, without fail, they've eventually been forced to do the math. The color has drained from their faces, the heroic music in their heads has faded, and they've quietly walked away. And the best part? People have been having this exact same fever dream for over 100 years. Let's rewind the clock. 1904. The technology of the day was steam power and bold mustaches. Premier Richard King Dick Seddon, a man not known for small ambitions, floated the idea during a whirlwind national tour. He boasted about government surpluses earmarked for grand infrastructure like irrigation schemes and rail extensions. Hey, why not throw in a Cook Strait tunnel to link the islands as well? It was a 2025 proposal made with 1904 technology. Think about that. They were still figuring out biplanes. The Model T Ford didn't even exist yet. Trying to span that chasm with what they had wasn't ambition. That was optimism with a death wish. Engineers dismissed it outright for lacking any viable materials or methods to handle the strait's fierce currents and depths. Parliament never seriously debated funding it thanks to tight budgets. It was the engineering equivalent of building a ladder to the moon. Decades passed. Then the 1960s rolled around. This was the golden age of we can build anything. Nuclear power, space travel, confidence through the roof, and concrete basically free. The rail network was booming, especially after the 1962 launch of the Aramoana, New Zealand's first roll-on roll-off rail ferry. Trains could finally cross the strait in one piece. Maybe now was the time to take on the Cook Strait itself with a permanent tunnel. Things got serious. Geological surveys were mapped. Engineers sharpened pencils like weapons. Paperwork was filled. There was genuine belief. And then, nothing. The numbers came back. The accountant department nearly packed up and left. Early cost estimates were in the tens of millions, a small fortune back then. The risks were too real. Surveys showed Cook Strait's average depth of 420 feet. It plunged to over 985 feet in places. Just to keep things interesting, add in the Pacific-Australian plate boundary, famous for its habit of rearranging landscapes, and you've got trouble. The planet, it turned out, wasn't impressed by mid-century optimism. The Cook Strait isn't just water. It's a geological tantrum. Jump to the 1980s and 1990s, and it was the same old story. Some great idea that resulted in an accountant crying. And that brings us to now, 2018, 2014, and probably 2028. The cycle is predictable, almost comforting. It goes like this. One of the aging ferries has a problem. An engine fails, a sailing is canceled, holiday travel plans are a mess. The newspapers panic, flip through the archives, and find the headline they keep on standby. Is it finally time for a bridge? Cue the experts, geologists, seismologists, engineers, dragged out to crush dreams yet again. No, it is not time. It is still, and always will be, a terrible idea. People love to point to other countries. Japan's Seikon Tunnel, 33 miles long. Sure, it's an incredible feat, and they also did it to connect their main island of Honshu to Hokkaido, a combined population of over 100 million people. Slightly higher demand than Picton to Wellington. How about the Channel Tunnel? 31 miles of concrete connecting England and France. Well, they bored it through a single, stable, consistent, beautiful layer of chalk rock. It's the easiest, safest tunneling medium on the planet. Cook Strait, meanwhile, is a geological crime scene held together by stress and bad intentions. And then there's the cost. $50 billion, at least. For a country of 5 million? It's not an infrastructure project. That's generational trauma. No feasibility study has ever called it anything but a financial disaster. But let's pretend. Let's indulge in the grand fantasy. New Zealand wins the geological and financial lotteries. It finds a few billion under the national sofa cushion, ignores the earthquakes, shreds the environmental reports, and hands the engineers a blank check. 3 decades later, the concrete is set, the ribbon is cut, and history has been made. Who actually benefits? Well, the freight companies. Their trucks or their trains could run 24/7, 365 days a year. No more ferry schedules, no more booking slots, just pure, uninterrupted logistics joy. Tourists would maybe save a few hours getting from the Lord of the Rings set in Wellington to the Lord of the Rings mountains in Queenstown. Seems like Middle Earth is easier to navigate than New Zealand's inter-island transportation. The North Island economy might see a marginal bump too. Emphasis on marginal, in a very sterile spreadsheet sort of way. And that's it. A big win for logistics, a small win for impatient travelers, and a bump for the national economy. Now, who loses? This list is much, much longer. First up, the taxpayers. And that $50 billion sticker price, that's just the number they put in the brochure to stop you from fainting. The real cost is double. Triple, even. And how do you pay that back? With tolls so high, they'd need their own payment plan. The freight companies would riot. The tourists would shrug and fly instead, and the bridge would just sit there. An overbuilt, underused monument to optimism and bad accounting. Or the government just subsidizes it forever. It becomes a national tradition, a yearly offering to the gods of sunk cost. Every hospital, school, and road sacrificed to keep the great concrete albatross well-fed and supported. What about the ferry operators? Inter-Islander? Blue Bridge? All of them. They're gone. Wiped out overnight. That's not just a few boats, that's thousands of specialized, high-paying, long-term maritime jobs. Captains, navigators, marine engineers, skilled crews, terminal staff, an entire industry just gone. For a bridge. Then there's the bustling port town of Picton on the South Island. Population? 5,000. Its entire economy, its very reason for existing. It is the ferry terminal, where the journey begins or ends. A bridge or tunnel wouldn't use Picton. It would have to bypass it by miles. The new superhighway would scream past 12 miles away. Picton would become a ghost town. A relic, a sign on the motorway. Historic port, next exit. And let's not forget the indigenous iwi. Local Maori have deep, profound cultural and spiritual ties to the Strait. To them, this isn't just a patch of rough water. It's a place of ancestors, legends, and heritage. It's a living part of their identity. A decades-long, landscape-scarring, ground-shaking, water-polluting mega-project would be a profound desecration. And now the big one. The one that should stop the conversation cold, the entire nation's security. You've taken a system that bends and made one that breaks. Right now, there's 2 companies and multiple ships. A storm hits, you wait. A boat breaks, another takes its place. Life goes on. But a bridge or tunnel, though, that's one structure. One problem away from, guess we live here now. One bad earthquake, and the country's split in 2, indefinitely. One ship strike, one truck fire, one oops, and the nation's freight network is taking a gap year. You've built a single point of failure, a national Achilles heel, for the low, low price of $100 billion. The entire national supply chain, all the food, fuel, and medicine for the South Island, in one very shaky, very expensive, very vulnerable basket. And if all of that, the wind, the water, the quakes, the cost, the catastrophic risk, isn't enough, there's one last problem: the life. Cook Strait isn't empty. It's a marine superhighway. Orca, dolphins, humpbacks, blue whales, even tiny penguins. It's rush hour down there. Years of pile driving, dredging, and blasting. It's like building a nightclub sound system under a hospital nursery and cranking it to max volume forever. It's a full-blown ecological eviction notice, and a ship collision isn't a risk. It's an inevitability. Here's the part nobody likes to hear, because it's not big, shiny, or new. The best solution for crossing Cook Strait is the one they already have: ferries. They're not glamorous, they're not a national icon, they're just practical. And in Cook Strait, practical is what keeps you alive. The ferries already are the bridge, a roll-on, roll-off miracle of logistics and caffeine. State Highway 1 drives straight onto the deck. The rail line rolls its wagons right on. Trucks, campers, tourists, they're all crossing on a floating motorway that's worked for decades. Sure, the fleet's old. The Arataria ran aground in 2024, the Strait lost power, and the rest of them creak, like me getting off the sofa. But they still get you there. Upgrading the terminals and buying a whole new fleet of modern, reliable ships, it costs hundreds of millions. A bridge, tens of billions. It's not in the same ballpark. It's not even the same sport. So after all that talk of geological chaos and financial ruin, the ferries aren't the backup plan. They're the only plan that doesn't end in therapy. This isn't a consolation prize. It's reality. Physics approved, and there are 4 simple ironclad reasons why the ferries still win. First, flexibility. A bridge is an immovable slab of concrete. 4 lanes means 4 lanes, forever. No expanding for Christmas, no shrinking for quiet mid-May. 1 capacity, no imagination. Ferries, though, they adapt. Peak season, add sailings. Big event, shift the schedule. 1 ship in maintenance, just swap another in. It's an infrastructure with a pulse. And when your billion-dollar bridge needs maintenance, and it will, concrete cracks, steel rusts, lanes close. Ferries adjust, bridges fake confidence. Second, and this is a big one, redundancy. A bridge is a single point of failure. The ferry system is a network with backups. When the Arataria ran aground, it was messy, but the other ships kept the country moving. Now imagine the bridge in that situation. 1 quake, ship strike, or truck fire, and it's not delayed, it's gone. No backup, no detour, just 1 very expensive, very scenic parking lot. The third reason? Risk management. This isn't about redundancy, it's about humility. The ferries respect the Cook Strait. When a 49-foot swell storm hits, one of those once-in-a-decade tantrums, they don't fight it. They wait, tie up, have a cup of coffee, let nature scream it out. In a massive earthquake, the ships just bob. The water sloshes. Sure, some people might throw up, but that's it. The bridge? It gets punched in the face by geology. It stands there, trying to absorb the energy of a megaquake. Or, if they're unlucky, the 1 in 1,000 that shows up early. It's not resilience. That's wishful thinking in concrete form. Ferries spread risk. A bridge collects it, neatly, proudly, and catastrophically, right on top of a fault line that's been waiting for this exact moment. And the fourth reason, adaptability. Let's be honest, the current ferry fleet has problems. They're old, they burn bunker fuel, and they've got an emissions problem. But problems can be fixed. New ships can be hybrid, low emission, even electric. You can modernize the system 1 vessel at a time. Evolution, not revolution. Now try making a 31-mile, 10 million ton concrete and steel bridge green after you've built it. You can't. The CO2 released just to make it would be one of the biggest carbon burps in the nation's history, a century-long IOU to the atmosphere. By the time it's paid off, the ferries will be running on hydrogen and smugness. The bridge looks backward. The ferries move forward. Alright, let's tackle a few of the rapid-fire questions that always pop up.
So it was never tried?
Tried? Oh, it's been tried on paper for over a century. There's stacks of feasibility studies and economic analyses. The problem is, it's never survived contact with a calculator. Every time someone runs the numbers on cost versus risk, the proposal quietly gets filed away in a very large drawer labeled, maybe someday. Not for lack of vision, but because spreadsheets don't lie.
Couldn't we just build it taller to avoid the waves?
It's a tempting idea. Build above the waves. How hard could it be? Unfortunately, the wind doesn't stop up there. It gets meaner, angrier, and the higher you go, the more the earthquakes want to join in the fun. So you won't solve the wave problem. You just unlock new ones, bigger, louder, and much more expensive.
What about a rail tunnel?
Now, this one does get a few bonus points for creativity, but it's still a tunnel, and it still has to cross those same grumpy tectonic plates. It also has to deal with rock-squeezing ground pressure, and things get unpleasant fast. Then there's the gradient. Hauling a freight train up from that deep is a workout. And good luck getting fresh air in and fire smoke out of a 13-mile tunnel that's basically a diesel-scented straw. But future tech! Ah yes, the get-out-of-jail-free card. Sure, future tech is great, it might give us more efficient tunneling robots, but it's not magic. It doesn't fix the cost. It doesn't move the plates, and it's not about to ask the roaring 40s to chill. The problem isn't technology. It's geology and math, and they don't negotiate. The absence of a bridge across Cook Strait isn't a failure. It's not a sign that New Zealand is behind or lazy. It's a sign of sanity. It's a pragmatic, rational, intelligent choice made in the face of laughably bad geology, comically bad weather, and fiscally impossible economics. The ferries win. They win because they're flexible, redundant, adaptable, and most importantly, not a $50 billion bet against an earthquake. They've mastered the Strait the smart way, by working with it, not by pretending to be Poseidon. And that right there is why there's no bridge. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please consider subscribing and turn on notifications. Really does make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on MatPack.